What we're talking about today is something even more important, and that is communication. Specifically, what happens in the gaps, the silences, the unreturned messages, the I meant to reply moments, which we all have. Because what I know is that most unhappy clients in the industry didn't become unhappy because of something went wrong. They were unhappy because nobody told them anything. That's it. That's just what it is. Nobody told them the thing, and that's why they're unhappy. And the silence is what made them unhappy. And today, we're going to hope to try to have a few learnings. Let's rub minds on how we can try to fix it today through the power of communication. So if you look at the slide gently here, there's some words that shows in the slide here. It is not always the delay or bad experience that upsets couple. It's the silence. And that's the truth. How many of us, in fact, all of us are so busy doing so much work. Sometimes we're sourcing suppliers, we're managing logistics, we're designing florals, coordinating timelines, but we forgot to actually simply tell our clients what was happening. And in that gap, that whole gap, they started to actually worry. That's what happened. They started to worry. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing you've done was wrong, but they started to worry. They started to Google you. They started to wonder if they had just made a mistake by hiring you. And because the silence is what communicated something to them. So what I want you to understand today is that about the couples we work with, they are planning the biggest day of their life. So every unanswered message feels bigger to them than it does to you. You probably have 1,000 clients, but for them, they just have this one day. So it's not just a booking for them. It is their wedding. It is their ultimate wedding. So silence, it actually reads neglect a lot of times. And it's not fair, but it's true. Sometimes they wonder, how can they think that? It just reads neglect to them because for them, this is one precious thing that they have. While you think it's amidst 300 things, but it just feels neglect to them. They need to feel safe with you. And your communication, not your portfolio, not your Instagram handle, is what builds or breaks that feeling of safety with them. That's what happened. So your communication shapes that perception of your professionalism much more than your portfolio. So what are we going to be covering today is really very simple. We're going to look at why responsiveness matters, right? We're looking at the foundation of everything. Then we can talk about how to communicate when things go wrong or get delayed. And which honestly is a skill a few people have and have mastered. And it's something we might need to work on together as vendors. We can look at how to stay consistent in the chaos of the peak wedding seasons. For us in the UK, sometimes we have weddings. For those in Nigeria, you're probably running weddings round the clock because there's no season, there's no winter or whatever with you guys. But here we have wedding seasons, because when you say I was busy, and which is what I inferred in that poll that Shay did, is not exactly an answer, and it's something every vendor says, but clients don't want to hear I am busy. To them, you probably should be planning only their events, but to you, they are one number in the midst of so many. So I am busy doesn't cut it for them. And then we can look at how all these things connect together. What actually do we want? We want happier clients. We want glowing reviews and a steady stream of referrals. And by the time we're done today, hopefully we can be able to have a clear, practical framework on how we can start using these things today, even tonight. I'm sure whatever there was something you can be able to do today concerning communication, and not just next month or next year. So that's what I'm hoping to also achieve today. Why does responsiveness matter more than you think? Now, let me share something with you. If you look at the quotes on the left, right, these are the kind of things couples say when they leave reviews or when they tell their friends on why they wouldn't rebook you and all that. Say, I just needed to know someone was there. That's it. That's the entire thing. They didn't need a solution. They just needed to feel held. That's all. Because weddings are a very emotional thing, right? Even events are very emotional. If it be a milestone, even if it's a funeral, it's an emotional setup. They just want to feel they were held. That's what they want. Now, we're busy. I'm busy. You're busy. We're all busy as vendors. And the wedding season, the event season is relentless. But I know that some days you're on site 14 hours, 20 hours, as the case may be, and you can't reply to an email, right? But the reality is that in the absence of information, couples begin to build their own story. They create their own narrative. And the story they make up is almost never a generous one. You'll be shocked what couples come up with. Mostly when you also have probably an active Instagram page, right? And they've sent you messages, but you're not responding. But somehow you're jumping all over Instagram, even if you've probably queued that post. They don't know this, but they'll think, oh, you've posted something that matters to you more than they are, or you're ghosting. And they've created a narrative that it takes a while to actually change up on there. Now, but if you look at the right column here, this is where your response sets the tone. First response sets the tone for the entire relationship, because couples are emotionally invested. Every wait feels longer, So if they have to chase you for a reply to their inquiry, they've already started feeling like they're a burden to you. And these feelings don't go away easily. It takes you probably 2-3 times to correct that impression with them. And that's when we start working on tiptoes with clients. Because your response signals your professionalism. It tells them, I'm organized. It tells them, I am reliable. It tells them that I will show up for you on the most important day. I'm sure some of you have had couples even ask you, will you be there? Are you sure? Are you double booked? They are gauging, they are sensing. They might have seen something that made them come up with those questions. And that's why they ask those questions. And if you look at the bottom piece here, right, the goal is not actually to be available 24/7. That's not what I'm preaching here at all, because it's unsustainable. It's about being predictable. Set expectations, right? I said to Shay when we got on before this call that my clients know that there is one day they'll probably get delayed response, and it's on Sunday. I've said it to them. I said it clearly when we begin the process, because on Sunday, as you heard, I'm a minister's wife. I'll be on a pulpit. So except really fire brigade is happening on that day. But they already know. So they don't feel left away or left behind on a Sunday, because I've communicated in advance clearly that on this specific day is a day that you probably would have delayed response on there. So set expectations and meet those expectations. Acknowledge first. It's the acknowledgements, first of all. It's not even about answering the messaging. It's, I got the email. Now, if you're not even a planner or you're a decorator or another supplier, when you get emails, even from planners or anybody, acknowledge, I've seen it, I've looked at it, I'll get back to you by just acknowledging. It's communication on its own. Acknowledge first, I got your message. Something as simple as that. But if you're trying to build up this fancy reply in hours, you forget, you move on to the next day. So you acknowledge first, I'll come back to you. It's better than silence altogether. So don't be silent. Acknowledge the message that has come to you on there. Now, this slide, I like this slide. I call it the delay communication formula. And like I said earlier, acknowledge. Most vendors, the moment where vendors dread, when something is running behind, when you haven't seen the proposal yet, when the supplier hasn't confirmed, when you simply haven't had time to reply. Most people do one of two things, right? They either avoid the situation, hoping the client doesn't notice, or they begin to over-apologize in a way that actually makes the client even more concerned about the scenario. But there's a better way to do these things, really. And it takes just a few, acknowledge. Don't dance around. We had the example just now about a message sent to the DM, right? Instead of trying to skip like it never happened, just acknowledge it. Do not blame anybody. Do not blame a supplier or software or your busy schedule, even if it genuinely wasn't your fault. I apologize for the delay. That's not the standard. I share that a lot to my clients. That's not the standard I hold myself accountable to. That is not the brand EOW, right? We aim to respond within. So I acknowledge that I had missed the boat on this one, Make it reassuring than a list of reasons, Ownership builds trust. When you own it, it builds trust. And vendor, client, vendor, planner, it's all about the trust that we build in this scenario. So when you acknowledge, you're building trust. Then give it time. Vague response is not reassuring. I'll be in touch soon. What does soon even mean? What is soon? Next week? Next month? Next year? What is soon? It means absolutely nothing. Be clear. I'll have it to you by, put a time frame to it. I'm a big person of under promise and over deliver. Now, if it's going to take you to 1 day, 3 days, give yourself the grace of 1 week or 2 weeks in there and give that timeline to your clients. And if you do it in the 2 days time frame, you become a superstar to the clients. If you're not even able to do it in the 2 days, right, you've also managed the expectation of the client that they don't need to bother you within the next 2 weeks, but you've created that time bubble for them, be specific, and then you try to honor it. And if the boat shifts again, don't ghost, don't run away, don't avoid it, come back. Let them know this is what is happening. This is how the boat is shifting on this request. I said I was going to come back to you by Thursday. If you already knew by Tuesday, it won't happen on Thursday. Unless your client is chasing you, you message them on Tuesday. Let them know. Let them know what you're doing in advance to fix the situation. Just communicate. Again, the clients are not happy because something has gone bad. They're happy because they were just never told on there. So you reassure them, remind them why they chose you. Why have I chose Tutu? Why have I chose efficacy? Why have I chose fuller function? That is when you own this thing. You reassure them. Your day is so important to me. You always have to make the client feel like they are the only person you're catering for. Well, that's how I personally run my business, right? I can have 20 clients, but every client is made to feel like your event is the most important one. And it shows in the way you communicate with them, never making them feel like your September, right? We'll get to your matter in August. We have people in May's wedding, people in June to deal with, people in July. And I get that even from vendor friends, right? When you're trying to get their attention on things, oh, what's that booking again? September. We'll get to you. Why? My client, this is the most important thing in their schedule, right? Even if you get to me then, but there's a way you can keep reassuring me to understand that I'm working on it. I'm planning something beautiful up to this time. This is when I would get back to you. So communicating with them, reassuring them, makes them understand this is the reason why I hired the person. And this formula takes a few seconds to execute, right? You're just acknowledging, giving them a timeline, taking ownership, and reassuring them. It completely changes how a client feels about a delay. What to say and not what to say. Let's look at this slide together, right? Now let's get very specific because this is where the difference lives. Not in the grand gesture, but in the actual words. Look at the first row. Sorry for the late reply. No context. We've all sent this. I have also sent this message before. Yeah. And it's become automatic. It means absolutely nothing to the client. The client doesn't want an apology. They want to know what's happening. So I always encourage, lead with an update, not an apology. Lead with an update. Let them know what's going on. All this, I've been very busy. We are all busy. Even the client is busy. Your couples know you are busy. In fact, a lot of times, that's why they hired you. They want the booked and busy vendors, isn't it? So first, you do that, I'm booked and busy. They know you are busy. They fully know. They know you are in demand. But this phrase puts your problem onto them. Instead, say, thank you for your patience. Acknowledge the weight in there without making it about you. Thank them for their patience in the process, right? I'll send it over soon. Again, soon is not a timeline. It doesn't mean anything. Put a timeline to it. When are you going to send this to them? Whatever the expectation is, let them know. If it's going to be in 3 months, put it there because your soon and their soon might vary because soon to them could probably be tomorrow, but soon to you already means 90 days, which is a whole different stretch altogether. So put what your soon means in there. Being specific gives reassurance on there. Now, if you look at row 4, this one is big. Say, there's been a problem with your supplier. Do not blame the supplier by name or in detail. Don't forget, a lot of times when you're hired, your client hired you and did not hire the 20 other subcontractors within you. They did not. They didn't know if you were going to need to hire the florist in between, the person that provides the bowl. That's not their problem. they hired you to be able to run the rest of the things there. So stop blaming the supplier. It creates anxiety because the client is now very worried. Oh my God, if this doesn't land from China, what does that mean for me? You've now automatically given them something to worry about. But you can say, I'm managing, like be clear what you're managing with them and tell them what your plan is. Give them guidelines. Showcase what you're doing in the process of whatever the delay is, clearly showing that. And it just clearly tells them why they hired you. They hired the fixer because you are the point, you are their point of reassurance. That's why they picked you. They don't know the sub person that needs to carry the video, the other person that was going to be sick on the day. They have no clue with her. That's your own logistics, in-house things you're dealing with. But showcase the client what your plans are effectively to honor the delay or manage that process on the without clearly saying, oh, the thing on the high C is what's being delayed. But let them manage what it is they're doing for you or you're doing for them, right? Now, silence for me, we can have conversation about this. Silence for 48 hours is a big thing for me, right? 48 hours of silence. Even if you have nothing to report, a quick message to people who have been checking on your matter, it's good to do. Put that message in, right? It doesn't matter the amount of work you're doing. 48 hours of silence for someone who's been checking in on you. Let them know, I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten. Mostly if you're in a group chat with your clients or some planners, they have group chats with their clients and they've asked for something, 24 hours have gone, 48 hours. Even if you're working on that, if you haven't told them that you're working on it, they are just pensive and thinking you've ghosted them. Again, WhatsApp makes you understand when people have read messages. So even worse, because they've seen you've read the message, but you haven't acknowledged, you haven't responded. There's anxiety, there's just narratives going through their minds, right? Let them know, I haven't forgotten. It's on my to-do list. I'm going to act on this tomorrow. I'm going to come back to this. I'm checking on this. Just communicate. Just communicate. Sorry, communication is a big, just communicate with them. Here are a few ways we can stay consistent on communication. I know you say, but Elsie, is your thing, you had communication, or you generally don't have time. I hear you. But you don't need more time. You just need better system. That's it. The vendors who are most consistent with communication are not the ones with the lightest weight, right? It's not because I have less work to do than any of you on this call, but because I've built communication into my workflow, not as an extra task, but as a non-negotiable on how I operate. Comms is part of the system. It's part of what we do. It's not an extra thing to do. It's built into how we organize ourselves as vendors or as a business. And that's just how it can make it work, right? Think about it this way. You can have a communication schedule. You can plan out time, right? You don't have to be available all the, because they're exhausting to be available all the time, to be honest. Be available at predictable times. When are you available? Of which you should have communicated this information as well. Don't assume because I come online or I come to my clients on Monday and Tuesday, they just understand. Clearly communicate this information to them, and then they can be able to adjust and work with you in that parameter. So that when you come to them on Thursday or Friday out of your days, it's something they appreciate. They don't feel entitled, they appreciate because you already clearly stated your comms plan with them. And then there are off days where you've been able to come even much more. They see you as a superstar because you've gone out of the norm of what the expectation was. So you've gone ahead over and above in there, Create templates. I don't even understand why people don't even have out of office. And out of office also buys you time. It buys you time. You send an email. If you send me an email now to my business email, it will tell you that we'll respond in 48 hours. So I already have 48 hours to read my email. And I also put in that out of office about wedding season. If we're in wedding season, it might take us a little longer. So if you send an inquiry, you already know the expectation of when I'll come back to you. So but if I come back to you less than 48 hours, less than 72, in a few hours, I become a star because I had created a norm in my out of office, but I can come in earlier. But if you're not someone that even come in earlier, that out of office buys you time. So if you're here, you don't have an out of office. An out of office means when people send you a message, the email that automatically responds back to them, is what an out of office is. Build that in as a system. And that out of office can have so much in that. It can have how to reach you, your social media handles, your other businesses, your website. It can be an entire marketing loop when you send that, because they're able to even be engaged with that while waiting for your real and thorough response. So I encourage people to do that. You can put a reminder in your calendar as well, right? That says, check my inbox, check my email, check something, build the system. Or if none of this is your field, maybe you have to hire somebody. Maybe you just have to hire somebody. What comes is non-negotiable at all. And so you don't have reactive communication. You can even build templates of different ways of responding to stuff. If it's this subject, this is how we respond. If it's this subject, this is how we respond. And it just runs that way. So you're never to be caught unprepared, as the case may be. So have templates, have a 48-hour rule, batch your admin. You can have an admin day if you want to, right? Create an out. For me, the quick one is creating an out of office that buys you a bit of time. And nobody would hold you to it. If it's 72 hours, it's fine. At least you know yourself that at least in 3 days, you will read this email and reply. You know that. If you know that 48 hours works for you, do that, right? But manage the expectation of the clients or the inquiry that is coming in through that. Now, this is all we've talked about. Hopefully, I'm keeping to my 30 minutes time, right? When you get your communication right, something remarkable happens. Your clients don't just leave happy. They become your advocates. Reviews that mention your name, not the flowers are beautiful, it's she made us feel so looked after. That's a review that you want for your next booking. Like referrals that come without you having to ask. Because when someone's friend says, I'm getting married, do you know someone? Your name comes out of their mouth without hesitation. Complaints that never become crisis because you caught them early. You communicated honestly and your client felt respected enough to give you a chance to put it right. Baby showers, anniversary, you just become that household name for the family. Anything, they will bring it back to you again, And that's what you really want to hear, that your reputation that attracts the right clients. When someone who communicates well, who is reliable and warm and professional, you start attracting clients who value that, who respect your process, who don't haggle on price, as she indicated, because they understand what they are getting. Cheeky me on the right-hand side, I put some reviews there. I could need a whole slide for reviews. If you go on my Google page, you would always, if you read these reviews, one of the things that's consistent in the reviews there is communication. Every client I serve, always, no matter how lengthy or short or whatever the review is, there's always something they always speak out on. Elsie's communication, Elsie's communication, Elsie's communication. It tells you how much clients value communication. It's something they really value. It's something that makes or break. And even in this new world of the generation that are getting married, like no time for time. You can't communicate. They move on, proper, they're off and going. But be that person because you can be so good at what you do, but you do not communicate. Even as a planner vendor, when I'm working with, I get some vendors on my list for an event, and I see something, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be painful. Because you're already like, this person does not communicate. So it means you're going to be working 10 times more. Because for someone like me communicating, I'm going to doubling up my effort so I can ensure that I communicate properly to my clients. And there's some vendors you're like, it's going to be a beautiful ride because these people get it. So communication is something that should be part of who you are, part of your itinerary and everything that you do. And you would get that glowing review. They never forget. Clients never forget. They never forget how you acted in it, even on the day of an event, right? Communication is also very important. How you escalate things is also very important. How you manage scenarios, how you let clients know when things are going off or going well is also important. And that's the importance of communication. Right, let's remember this, right? Now, we've come quite a way in this short session, right? And I want us to close with what matters most. Responsiveness is your reputation. Every message is a first impression repeated. Repeated with every inquiry, every update, every thank you, repeated until it becomes your brand. Now, I'm going to toot her horn. She said today that when it comes to me, she's communicated so much because she's working with me. And I heard some vendors say that to me. When they have me on their book, we are communicating. We have to communicate. It becomes your brand because they know that when it comes to you, this is the way you want to be worked, how you want people to work with you. You clearly see that you're someone that communicates. A client knows that they would hire you over and over. No matter how much you raise your face, they get it. They know what they're paying for, the value you're paying for on there, right? That's who you are. Also, silence is a message, whether you like it or not. And when we go quiet, even for the most, so it's really what you mean to say. The fact that you didn't even say anything is a message on its own. And our clients will feel the silence with their own fear. So don't let them write that story. Write it for them. Don't give them an opportunity to write the gaps in the story. Write it for them. Acknowledge life happens, things happen. Don't ghost, don't run away. Come out and share and acknowledge. Sometimes you have vendors that something has happened to, they ghost for a while, you can't find the files anymore. Yes, life is life, but the client just feels, oh my God, what a bad vendor, ran off with my video, photo, any of those things I never talked about, but they didn't know that maybe the vendor had a bereavement and all that. You have to communicate on there. So consistency doesn't require perfection at all. So I'm not asking you to be a robot at all. I'm not saying that. I'm asking you to respond. I'm asking you to be intentional, to have a plan, to show up for your clients the same way they are showing up for their biggest day. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. And that's me in a nutshell.
So on that note, I think that's everything that we had for you today. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. Thank you, Elsie, again. And thank you every single person for joining and for staying till the very end. So that's the wrap from us for this quarter. Thank you so much and have an amazing, amazing night. Thank you.
Thank you.